Hi, I'm Scott Tran, and this is the People Skills for Introverts podcast. This episode is about getting value out of attending conferences. Having a strategy can make the difference between a conference being a complete waste of your time or well worth your time. Meet Dave Rodenbaugh, an entrepreneur.
The thing that I'm currently working on right now, which is my next project, it's called Support Vine. It's a customer support SaaS tool. Sort of all of my entrepreneurial experiences building up to this.
As a part of his journey, he's been going to MicroConf since it began in 2011.
So MicroConf is a great conference for people who are running bootstrapped businesses or people who are doing consulting right now and want to get out of consulting and into running a business full-time.
If you have an idea and you're not quite sure if it's a good one or you're not quite sure how you're going to make it work, coming to MicroConf can expose you to a lot of entrepreneurs who have done exactly what you're trying to do.
When I first started, it was about learning. They'd have really amazing speakers there. It was Patrick McKenzie and Heaton Shaw, Noah Kagan, Ramit Sethi, Andrew Warner. Like my brain got inflated to about 100 psi. It was just enough. It was enough to cause massive cranial pressure in my skull, but not enough to cause explosion. So there was a lot of insights that I got that first year. The second year was, very much the same. The third year, at some point, when you become familiar with the bootstrap community, a lot of that, is not new anymore. And then I was thinking to myself, well, do I want to try to hustle and promote something here?
As luck would have it, Dave had written a book on buying profitable websites. The people he had written the book for were the same ones attending MicroConf. It was a perfect fit.
How can I promote the website buying book? Because after the first one, I realized that here were 100 possible customers. How could I make the hustle here? How could I make the sale? And I had this vision in my head, that I was going to walk away with 100 sales or maybe 50 sales.
So what was your plan to promote the book and make some sales?
I tried to go out and actively find people that were interested in it. And sometimes I would get people that would come up, because it got announced, hey, Dave's selling this book. If you're interested, come talk to Dave. Great. So I got probably like 3 or 4 people that came up and asked me about that.
What about the people that didn't come up to you? How did you sell it to them?
I think I tried to inject it into conversations inappropriately. This was a couple of years ago, so the details are a bit sketchy at this point. But I do remember a conversation where I was standing around with 2 or 3 other people, and the conversation had turned to, websites. And I was like, oh, well, is anybody here interested in hearing about the buying of the websites? And I think there was, an awkward pause for a moment, crickets. We had to move on very quickly.
That sounds rough. How many book sales did you get for your efforts?
I think I sold 3 copies of the book. Maybe 4 or 5. I don't know. It wasn't that much. I thought, okay, well, maybe I just need to give it an extra day, because people haven't had time yet, right? No, that wasn't it at all. It didn't really get any follow-up sales. Didn't really do anything at that point. And that's when I had to look at it a little more critically, like, why did this not work here? And I don't even know that I specifically figured it out 24 hours after the conference. It was more like 3 to 6 months, because I kind of lost. It felt demoralizing. Like, okay, I built this product. I thought I promoted it. I thought it was something interesting. I thought people would be pounding down the website to get it. And none of that turned out to be true. So then it was a question of, well, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? And I couldn't really ask that question until I got past oh man, that sucked. I was in denial for a long time. And then there was the anger phase, and then there was the mourning phase, and then, there's resolution after that. So it took me probably about 6 months to get to resolution, I think.
What did you learn from that experience, and what's your strategy now?
My interests were not aligning with their interests. And so that made me realize that was the absolute wrong way to go about it, because I was making it about me, not about them. And people are much more interested in talking about themselves than they are about hearing what you have to say, unless you open it up and suddenly you find that there's some common ground and that what you're talking about is really what they're interested in hearing about. And that's sort of an important social interaction that I figured out in hanging out with bootstrappers over the past 4 years. And I didn't really have specific words for this until I recently read Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. So the thing that Tony Hsieh said in the book that made me look back at when things were more successful for me versus when they were not, it was about building relationships. That's when Tony realized that if you build a relationship with somebody, and by building a relationship, I mean that in the broadest sense possible. Like, the important part is to build the relationship and to, increase trust and have something in common that you want to talk about and that you are interesting to each other. Building it as a friendship as opposed to a utilitarian thing.
What's changed since you adopted this new strategy?
First of all, the whole conference felt just less forced and much better and more interesting to me. And second, it seemed like there was a natural continuation after the conference. Like, there were people I wanted to keep in touch with. So, we'd exchange Twitter handles or we'd become Facebook friends. And then you kind of interact indirectly over the year. And then when I see them the following year at MicroConf, because a lot of people come back, the repeat rate on that conference is pretty high. I want to say it's like 75%. So you get to see a lot of the same people every year. And you could renew it and you go a little bit deeper this time. And one thing that Tony Hsieh said in his book, it takes about 2 to 3 years to really create and nurture a relationship that will ultimately be valuable to both of you down the road. So, I've only been going to MicroConf for 4 years, and this will be number 5. So I'm just starting to get some, relationships that can have value both ways.
Thanks to Dave. He's working on a new app to help businesses be awesome at customer support. Check it out at supportvine.com. If you enjoyed this episode, let Dave know on Twitter at Dave Rodenbaugh. And special thanks to MicroConf for giving us permission to use a clip from one of their videos.